Good morning. March the 10th of 2017. Have I ever said how much I love these Bible stories? Stories we read about as kids, you know, stories that they told us in Sunday school and children's church. And I love these stories, but what I love even more is how God on March the 10th, 2017 makes it about us today. And remember, the whole purpose of this video and doing these videos is to encourage you in your daily walk with the Lord so that you get to have the habit and the dedication of getting to know your Father's heart through the Word, the book that He wrote for you. He says, here's my heart. Let me pour it all out and put it on paper for you. That's the reason I do these videos. I know I talk about what He speaks to me in the videos. It's not about me. It's never been about me. It'll never be about me. However, He's speaking to me, and when we're reading in things like the Numbers, and when we're reading in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and God can speak to Elizabeth on that day in 2017, He'll speak to you on that day in 2017. You just have to do it. You just have to read. You just have to take the time. And this is to encourage you that He's no respecter of persons. Beyond anything He does with me, He'll do with you. I can assure you. Today is not any exception at all. So the last 2-3 days, we heard about the wrath of God when they grumbled and complained. And what do we read about today? Right off the bat. Then all the congregation, Numbers 14, verse 1, raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moses. The whole congregation said to them, now listen, Moses was the voice of God. And this is what the people said. Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. See, Joshua and Caleb had already gone across and had come back and told them about the land. And so did the other 10 that was with them. And the other 10 said that, oh, there's giants. They'll kill us. They're stronger than us. They're bigger than us. Oh, no, we can't go in there. Joshua and Caleb said, God's favor will be with us. God's favor will be with us. He'll go before us, and He'll make our victories a sure thing for us. And these people heard the negative. So here they were faced with, here comes the positive, here comes the negative. Which hand did they listen to? They listened to the negative. Which hand do you listen to? When given an option of positive or negative, which one do you listen to? I know every one of us on the surface will go, well, of course we listen to the positive. Really? Really? I think you're beautiful. Oh, I think your nose is crooked. Which one do we listen to? Oh, I think you're handsome. Oh, well, if you'd work out a little bit more, you'd have more muscles. Which one do we listen to? They had the negative and they had the positive presented to them, and they focused on the negative. And I am telling you, if you're lying to yourself or not, that's our human nature. The enemy would always divert our attention. That's the only power he has is to deceive us. And he only has that power when we give him that power. And so we'll focus on the negative over and over and over again. And we do our whole lives. I mean, something that was said to me in 3rd grade has stayed with me, and I use that story in ministry all the time. I had a teacher tell me I wasn't capable of making straight A's, all the way back to the 3rd grade. And you know what? I made straight A's from that point forward. But guess what I focused on? Guess what I spend too much time thinking about now? God deliver me of that. I hope I never use that story ever again, except for your glory. But you get my point. We focus on the negative. It's, what somebody negative said to us becomes our mantra instead of what God says to us. Another reason why I have to read this, guys. I have to read this. I have to listen to him. I have to pray. I have to hear him tell me that I'm his favorite. And then I have to find it in the book that he says that I'm the apple of his eye. Then all of a sudden, when I feel like my father's told me I'm his favorite, and then I find that I'm the apple of his eye, it's true. I'm his favorite. Wow. Do you know what my day's like when I go about thinking I'm God's favorite versus, oh, they're going to kill us. Oh, they're bigger than me. The giants out there will just devastate us. You see the difference? Well, anyway, I didn't even know I was going to talk about that. So they grumbled. And then they cried out. Now, did God hear their prayers? Did God hear what they were saying to Moses? Was Moses not the funnel that took what God said and funneled it to them? And he took what they said and he funneled it to God? God showed me something brand new today in these scriptures. I'll point it out to you. I'd never seen this before. And I want to make sure I know who it is that's talking. I think it's Caleb talking. Well, I'll just read it. Then Moses and Aaron fell down on their faces, verse 5, before all the assembly of the congregation of the people of Israel, and Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes at what the people were saying, and said to all the congregation of the people, the land which we passed through to spy it out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord. This morning, every one of us, when we read this, ought to just immediately bow our head and say, Father, show me any rebellion I've got. Is there rebellion in me? Where am I hard instead of soft? Where am I hard instead of pliable? Where am I stubborn with my spouse instead of long-suffering like you are? Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear. Boy, I'll tell you what, God has done and is doing and will continue to do such a work in my heart about fear. He is revealing places in me of fear that I never dreamed existed. I just 3 years ago, if you'd have told me, I would have been oblivious to you telling me the areas that God has pointed out fear in my life. And fear drives anger. Fear drives us to shut down in relationships. Fear drives us to have no communication in relationships. Fear drives us to make bad decisions. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. They're bread for us. For crying out loud, they'll be what feeds us. If we don't rebel against God, if we don't let fear reign in our lives and we allow God to reign in our lives. Powerful stuff. And then in verse 11, God answers. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me? Can you hear the cry of our Father? I mean, have you ever had a child rise up against you? Have you ever had a child that just outright defies you? And inside you're just going, when will they come to it? When will I for some reason today when I read this, how long will the people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me? It broke God's heart for them to despise him. It breaks God's heart when we don't believe in him. I mean, we're seeing his heart. We're seeing his heart. Yes, I mean, we see his vengeance as well. But this is the reason I read. I wanted knowing, who is this God? Who is this God that sent his spirit and killed 180,000 Assyrians in one fatal swoop? Who is this God that sent fire in the last 2 days and killed out the Israelites on the borders of their camps because they were sinning against him? Who is this God that sent his only son to die for you and me. Who is this God? He's a God who his heart breaks when his people don't believe in him, when they despise him, when they disobey him. His heart longs for us. He wants us. So then it goes on. So it goes on. How long will they not believe in me in spite of all the signs I've done? He said, look at everything I've done for you. Look at all I've done for you. Look at all I've brought you through. You could have died 15 times and I saved you. Look at what I've done. Can you not see my hand in your life? You should have been dead a long time ago. I'm not finished with you yet. I've got plans for you. I have a purpose for you, or I'd have let them take you. If you were as evil as you try to tell yourself you are, you'd already be gone. You'd be burning in the pit. But I have plans for you. You are mine. You are mine. So he goes on and he says, I will strike them with pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make you a nation greater and mightier than they. He's telling Moses and Caleb and Joshua and Aaron. He's telling them, I'll wipe them off the face of the earth. But Moses said to the Lord, then the Egyptians will hear of it, and he pleads for them all the way up to verse 18, where he says, the Lord, now this is Moses talking to God. The Lord is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, forgiving iniquity and transgressions. So he makes intercessory prayer for them. He pleads with God and reminds God that he's slow to anger, that he abounds in steadfast love. And then in verse 20, the Lord said, I have pardoned according to your word, Moses. Don't think for 1 second the prayers you pray for your children aren't heard by God. Don't think for 1 second the prayers you're praying for that friend that's on a path of destruction are not heard by God. He hears, just as he heard. If there was ever a time and a place when God had justification to just wipe them out of the face of the earth, it's probably this one. And yet because Moses prayed for them, once again, it wasn't God's heart to kill them anyway. That's not what his heart was. He loves us. He loves us, and he loved us even way back then before Jesus came and paid the price for all of our sins. And then this is where I heard something brand new today, and I'll close with this. He said, say to them, as I live, declares the Lord, this is verse 28. Say to them, as I live, declares the Lord, what you have said in my hearing, I will do to you. Your dead bodies shall fall in this wilderness, and of all your numbers listed in the census from 20 years old and upward, who have grumbled against me. I mean to tell you, he is driving it home that we're not to grumble and complain. And you know what's happened in the last week since this has started? He has given me a greater awareness of how many times in a day I want to grumble and complain. And I'm ashamed of myself. Now, I don't walk in guilt and condemnation because I'm immediately saying, thank you, Lord, for showing me. Thank you, Lord, for showing me. But I've been shocked this week. Now, I've been working on the power of my words for years, but he drove it home to me harder in my morning readings this year. And he's taken me to a new level, and he's showing me just how much I murmur and complain. And that's what made God so mad, is the murmuring and complaining. So everyone listed in the census from 20 years old and upward who have grumbled against me. See, that was the criteria for him to wipe them out. If you hadn't grumbled, you didn't get killed. Woo! You know what the truth is in that? Is when we grumble, it kills us. It kills us. Spiritually and in our soul, our mind, our wills, and our emotions. That's how that correlates to today. Back then, it was a physical death, and it's exactly what happened. Today, it's a death, all right, but Jesus saved us from that death. But our grumbling and complaining kills us from the inside out. Powerful stuff. Who have grumbled against me, not one shall come into the land where I swore that I would make you dwell, except Caleb, except Joshua. But your little ones who you said would become a prey, I will bring in. Now, what did they pray at the very beginning? What was it I emphasized on page 1 this morning? And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moses. The whole congregation said, what that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that we had died in the wilderness. And what God pointed out to me for the first time ever, that I've ever seen it in all the years I've been reading through this, is that he answered their prayers. They prayed that they'd die in the wilderness. And he answered their prayers. I had never seen it like that. See, their prayers was their grumbling and their complaining. The grumbling and that's what they were saying. Remember I said Moses is the funnel from God's voice to them, and he was the funnel from their voice to God. God heard everything they said, and they said, oh, that we would have died in the wilderness rather than to go into the land flowing with milk and honey. And God granted them their wish. Careful what we say. Careful. It's the reason we can't use harsh words and sarcasm with our spouses and with our children. It's the reason why we shouldn't be the king and queen of fast words. We need to be slow in our words. And I promise you, the only reason this speaks is because he is piercing me to my core. Because as I told you yesterday, on one hand, it's a gift from God that I'm able to communicate. On the other, the very gift he gave me is a gift I will abuse, and I will use it wrong. And I want to do better, and I am doing better, and I will continue to do better. Anyway, I just, a lot of good stuff in that, I guess. A lot of good stuff for me. And remember, the purpose is not about what he's saying to Elizabeth. The purpose is to show you that when you're faithful to his word every day, he'll speak to you. And he'll make it real to you on this day in 2017. God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. I love y'all. And remember, you're my favorite.